In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to set up a simple budget in Excel. When you're embarking on a recording project, it's imperative that you understand how much money you have and how much money you're going to spend. So we're going to do this in Excel. So you'll see here that I have just a simple open Excel spreadsheet, and I've already added my title, Recording Budget. So when you're thinking about the costs that you're going to have basically three different categories. You're going to have one-time fees, you're going to have costs per day, and then also costs per song. So we're going to account for that in our budget. So first, let's talk about costs per day. I'm going to set up just some simple titles. So you've got your item, you've got your cost per day, you've got your number of days, and then you have your total. So some expenses that you might incur per day would be, first and foremost, your studio space. You've got your food, because you and your bandmates need to eat. And then you have your lodging. So then let's talk about some of the expenses that you'll be charged per song. So you've got your item, your cost per song, your number of songs, and your total. So let's say maybe you have to hire some studio musicians. And of course, there's your producer, any editing that you have to have, mixing, and then mastering. And then the third category, as we mentioned, are just kind of one-time fees. So let's do item and then just cost. So things like this might be what's called duplication. So if you're printing CDs or vinyl records. You're also going to have what's called an Isrc code. So this is a code that you assign to each of your songs, and it's a specific code that every single creative work has, whether it's a book, an album, a song, whatever it is. They all have their special Isrc codes, and you're going to need to register for this code. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this. You can either register for your own specific code through the government, and that's a $95 one-time fee. That's what I did. You can also get codes specifically through any sort of duplication service that you use. So if you decide to go to disc makers, they can assign a code for you. And then finally, you've got, let's say, transportation. So if you had to fly or rent a car to get to your studio space. I recorded in Nashville, so I had to fly there and then I had to rent a car. So we've got our transportation. So you'll notice in this B column, the text overhangs the column and it looks a bit scrunched. So to widen that column, all you have to do is go up to this column header and go right between the B and the C column until the cursor looks like a little line with two arrows pointing on either side. Click and then drag the line over to where you'd like it. And now everything is nice and full. I also want to bold my headers. So if we click and drag, you can hit and then hit bold. That'll bold your headers. Now let's say you wanted to do this to all of your titles and all of your headers. You could do the same thing, click and drag, and then hit the Command key and hit click and drag again, and that'll do them all at the same time. Okay, so now let's start entering in some costs. So your studio space per day generally could cost you around $1,000. So then there's your food. So let's say you and your bandmates are going to be on a pretty tight budget. So let's put $50 a day. And then there's your lodging. So let's say you are able to stay with a friend or a relative. So let's put that at $0. Now, let's say it's going to take you 3 days to record your project. So you can enter 3, 3, and 3. Now, you'll notice this cost per day column, we're talking about money. So we want to make that money, not just a random number. So if you click and drag down, that highlights all of these cells. And if you come up here to this little money sign and click it, it'll turn it into money. This is just a number of days, so that can stay a regular number. Now, to figure out the total, you can do $1,000 times 3 is obviously 3,000, right? That's really easy to do in your head. But we want to make this a little bit more professional so that if we need to change something, it'll automatically change it. So in order to do that, it's really easy. You just hit the equal button and you click on this cell right here, click. And then you want to hit Shift and the number 8 to do times. You'll see that little asterisk there. And then click on the number of days. So we've got cell C5 times cell D5. And then hit Enter, and you've got 3,000. So let's say, for example, you realize that you're going to need an extra day of recording, and you wanted to change this to 4. Then it automatically updates that number, and you don't have to go back to do that yourself. So let's change that back to 3. Now, instead of typing that out for each of these cells, what you can do is click on this 3,000 cell right here and go down to the bottom right until it becomes a bold X like that. Click and then drag down, and it'll automatically populate these cells with those formulas. So if you click on this cell, you'll see it says cell C6 times D6. So that's this 50 times 3 equals 150. And the same can be said for this one as well. All right. So now let's do the same thing per song. So you've got your studio musician A. So let's say they're going to charge you $500 per song. Same with studio musician B. And then let's say your producer is going to charge you $200 per song. Your editing is going to be $200, your mixing is going to be $200, and your mastering is going to be $100. Now, these are general estimates. Please do not use these. You're going to want to reach out to your producer, anybody who's going to be doing your editing, your mixing, and your mastering to understand what their rates are. And then once you know that, you can plug those numbers in. These numbers that I'm sharing with you are really just placeholders. So you've got these numbers. Now let's say you're going to do 6 songs. Now, remember how we dragged this cell over here? We can do the same for this 6. So if you do that again, you have all these 6s that populate this cell, and you don't have to go in and type 666 over and over and over again. Now, the same can be said for the total, right? So we can do 500 times 6 equals 3,000. And then again, you can populate the cells again. And now you can see how much each item is going to cost you in total. And then finally, you've got your one-time fees. So your duplication, let's budget $500. Your ISRC, as I mentioned, is going to be $95. And then let's say your transportation, your car rental plus your flight, let's put it at $500. Okay, so now you have a general estimate of how much things are going to cost you. But now we need to figure out how much everything is going to cost in total. So what I like to do, instead of keeping these all separate, I like to create what I call my actual budget. So you have your item, your budget. Now let's go ahead and bold those. So what we can do is copy these. So if you want to copy them, you highlight it and hit Command C, and then Command V to paste. Command C, Command V, Command C, Command V. And then for the budget, you can make one cell equal another cell. So let's hit the equal button, and equals your total. Go all the way down. And you can do that same thing here with dragging so that you can populate all of those cells automatically. There we go. Now at the bottom here, we can write our total. And let's bold it so that we know that this is the total budget. Now to add all of these numbers together, hit equal and type capital SUM, sum, parenthesis, and then what you can do is click and drag, and it'll add all of these together. And then hit close parenthesis, return, and there you go. There's your total budget for the entire project. So now you've got your budget, and you're recording, you're spending money, and you need to keep track of your costs. So you can still do that in this Excel spreadsheet. So when you come over here, you've got your items, your budget. Now let's add another column that says cost. And let's bold it again. Now, let's say the studio says, you know, we really like what you're doing. We're going to cut you a break because you're a nice person, which is rare, but you never know. So let's say they only charge you $2,000 for the studio space. And then let's say you and your band really tried to stay under that $50 budget for food a day, but it just did not happen. So you ended up spending, let's say, $200 in total for your food instead. Your lodging was $0. Your musician was still $3,000. And let's say that studio musician B really only charged you $2,500 instead of $3,000. Your producer was $1,200. Your editing, let's say, ended up only being $1,000. Let's say your mixing was only $1,000. Your mastering, let's say, it took a little longer than expected, or there was some sort of glitch that happened, or you decided to go with a different mastering engineer and it cost you $800. Let's say your duplication was $450. Your ISRC is going to be $95. And then let's say your transportation was a little bit more, it was $600. Now, again, we need to make this money, right? Because we're talking about money. So highlight it all, go up to the money icon. There you go. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing where we add these all up together. So this is good news. You're under your budget. Now, if you want to keep track to see what your balance is, to see if you're under or over, depending on the actual item itself, what you can do is create a fourth and final column that's called balance. And you'll notice that Excel is smart enough to automatically bold it if it's kind of in keeping with the other things that you're working on. So you've got your balance, so it's very easy to do. So you just hit the equal button, and then you click on your budget column minus the cost and hit enter. And you'll see that 3,000 minus 2,000 is 1,000. So again, you can do the same thing. You find that little cross, bring it all the way down, even to the total row, and then release. So you'll see that you were $1,600 under budget, which is great. And that's how you set up a simple budget. Now, you're going to want to be aware that just because you budget something doesn't mean that that's exactly how much it's going to cost. You really should prepare yourself to go over budget. You just never know what's going to happen. Maybe your car breaks down. As I mentioned, maybe you decide to go with a different engineer. Maybe you decide to do an extra song. There's a myriad of things that could be added to your budget. So when you're putting together your budget, it's always a good idea to leave yourself a little bit of wiggle room because you're more than likely going to go over your budget. So I hope this segment helped you to learn how to put together a simple recording budget. Now, I've been using a Mac, so whenever I said Command, you might want to use Control if you're using a PC. You can also do this on really any spreadsheet software like Google Sheets, for example. And remember, this is a fluid document, so it might change. You're going to probably go back to this at least 10 times, if not more. But it's great to have handy, and it's really going to help you keep on top of your finances as you're going through your project.